So 2021 was meant to be the big showcase for the Brexiteers. To them, not only was it going to be the true beginning of the UK as a new and, quote, single country, that it could sail forth and show the world what it was truly made of. And the two key big events that were meant to showcase global Britain to the world stage, to be able to sell that brand to the world as put forward by Boris Johnson, well, first of all, was meant to be the G7. And like I say, this hasn't really gone ultimately too well, and we'll get to that why in a bit. But the other big event was meant to be the COPE Challenge, or the Climate Change Challenge Initiative, just happening only just a couple of months later, just after the G7. But these were meant to be the big standing point cases to show how global Britain really could be. But as we've said multiple times before, the Tory party, the two big ideas floating around there, are in direct competition and are complete at loggerheads with each other. Because the idea of a global Britain platform sounds fantastic, but that means bad things will happen, like the trade deals we have seen that will undermine our own domestic produce. I take, for example, the steel industry that we talked about yesterday, that is going to suffer huge from the lack of no protections from basically the US or even China just dumping a load of cheap steel into our market. You've also got the fishing industry's troubles as well. Hull currently is looking that its big trawler industry may actually go under. We've heard that very, very recently, and that is incredibly worrying. That should be sending alarm bells, because if those industries are now closing, what about the rest? We've seen fishermen basically go and say, there's no point catching for a foreign market anymore. You just go and you throw your net out, and then you catch maybe like a couple of hundred fish, and then that's the domestic market sorted. And we are now seeing the fishing industry in dire straits. And it really does make me wonder, by the end of this year, how many fishing firms might have closed just in the first year of Brexit, when in a time this was meant to be their grand reawakening, that the Brexiteers told them this was going to be your moment. You'd have golden opportunities for all this. And of course, it ain't turned out that way. But let's get on to what happened, of course, at the G7. A shining moment that was meant to be for Boris Johnson, which unfortunately has turned out to be less than so. So, before we do jump into that, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, well, buy me a coffee. And also the YouTube memberships are now opened as down below as well. So, on with this. So, this comes from The Guardian, and the title is The Brexit Bust-Up Torpedoes Johnson's Big Showcase for Global Britain at the G7. Boris Johnson was embroiled in an extraordinary public spat with EU leaders over Northern Ireland on Saturday as the tensions over Brexit boiled over at the G7 summit in Cornwall. After a series of tense bilateral meetings at which French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Angela Merkel and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen told their summit host that the UK must implement the Brexit deal in full, and an unrepentant Johnson said that he had urged his EU colleagues to get it into their heads that the UK is now, quote, a single country. And also, in a further explosive intervention, Johnson then, quote, reinstated that the UK's threat to suspend the Northern Ireland Protocol unilaterally by invoking Article 16, a move that would almost certainly provoke trade retaliation from Brussels. He told Sky News that the EU was, quote, constructing all kinds of impediments instead of applying the protocol sensibly. Here's the thing, we're the not ones following this protocol. We were the ones who said this protocol would be perfect. This was a British solution. This wasn't an EU idea. But this was what the Brexiteers put back in years ago, fought against virulently, and then went, Okay, we'll accept it. You know, this is so bizarre. This is like someone moving house and then going through all the rigmarole, and then at the very last second, when the house they are sitting in is no longer their own, refusing to move house. None of this makes any sense. But this is the bizarre, topsy-turvy world we are living in. And this is no other fault than Johnson and the rest of the Brexiteers and the rest of the Tory party. So anyway, he said, I think we can sort it out. I think that we can sort it out. But it's up to our EU friends and partners to understand we will do whatever it takes, he said. If the protocol continues to be applied in this way, then we will not hesitate to invoke Article 16, as I said before. This row has overshadowed a summit at which Johnson has hoped to showcase global Britain as a strong and independent force on the world stage after Brexit. Instead, former British ambassadors said that his failure to honour the Brexit deal that he himself had helped to negotiate had fatally undermined trust not only in his government, but damaged its international reputation. Neil Steinwald, a former UK ambassador to Washington and the EU, said, the lessons of this week is that you can't have global Britain, which is generally respected and influential and impact a world around you, if people doubt your basic promises. Referring to a document signed at the summit by Johnson and US President Joe Biden, Shenwell added, there is no point in writing new Atlantic charters which depend on mutual trust, mutual confidence, and the rule of law when you are opening as complete chances. Johnson is at the moment hosting the summit at the Caribs Bay Beach Resort, where the world leaders have been discussing critical issues including the climate crisis, recovery from the pandemic, and how to contain China and Russia. In their first face-to-face meeting since 2019, the G7 leaders, including Biden, welcomed the return of a multilateral approach to tackling global problems after the departure of Donald Trump from the White House. But while Brexit was not formally on the agenda, the EU leaders took the opportunity to issue continued rebuke to Johnson in back-to-back meetings on Saturday morning over what they regard as the UK's abject failure to abide by the Northern Ireland Protocol. Macron told Johnson that France was ready to work more closely with the UK, but only if the British people honour their word to the Europeans and to the framework designed by the Brexit agreements. And according to the Elysee Palace, in addition to the level of tension, an account was disputed by Johnson's spokesperson. A similar message was also pressed home by Merkel, who was pictured declining to bump elbows with Johnson as they posed for photographs at the start of their meeting. In the third meeting, von der Leyen, the European Council President, and Charles Michel told Johnson that it was time to seek a way out of the standoff. All member states are aligned on this, and it is clear we are reciting during the meeting, said the EU official. Rhetoric needs to be toned down, and we need to look actively for solutions in the protocol. Lord Frost, the cabinet minister and the EU negotiator, whose pernicious approach has been dismayed by his European counterparts, Marko Slovak, attended all three meetings on Saturday. Biden has also stressed the importance of protecting the Good Friday Agreement, after it emerged that US diplomats had taken the unusual step of warning Frost and the approaching risk of flaming Northern Ireland tensions. The Shadow Foreign Secretary, Lisa Nadley, said, months of denial and poor leadership means that the government hosts this crucial summit while it is stuck in a war of words with our closest partners on both sides of the Atlantic. This is an absolutely irresponsible diplomatic failure, and it absolutely is. This will go down in history as one of the biggest diplomatic failures Britain has ever had. We talked about it, I think, before, about could this very well be Johnson's Suez moment, and I think very well it could be. So, Article 16 of the protocol allows for one side to take unilateral action in the event of serious economic, societal or environmental difficulties. Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab had earlier set the confrontational tone for most of the day ahead when he said that the EU must avoid being bloody-minded about the issue of border checks. Johnson is due to hold a press conference on Sunday as the summit draws to a close, but Number 10 fears that EU leaders could use their own statements to hammer home their Brexit message. In an opinion poll for The Observer, this shows that 41% think that the UK has become less influential over the past 10 years, with just 19 believing that its influence has risen. Some 31% believe that there has been no change. More specifically, 35% think that Brexit has given the UK less influence compared to the 26% who think it has given the UK more. Another former UK ambassador to Washington, Kim Darroch, said that the Brexit row had demonstrated the need for the UK to keep its word if it wanted to win respect. An international agreement is not an a la carte menu from which you can just choose to take and ignore the rest, said Darroch. Once you sign off on it, you have to implement it properly and fully. Global Britain is not going to work unless we are seen living up to our commitments. And I just want to restate that, what the Shadow Secretary said there from Lisa Nadler. I think she's hit the nail right on the head. This will be one of the biggest defining moments that just goes to show you how wrong-minded it really was for Britain to somehow think that it could just do all this stuff by itself and still be influential. Like I say, this has ultimately hurt the UK, and we are still a European country. Like it or not, working with the EU is the only way to solve this. And like I say, the Northern Ireland Protocol was proposed by Johnson and Frost as the solution to all these Brexit problems. This was going to solve it all. This would be it. Solved, done and dusted. But no, even back after the deal had been signed, Brexiteers were already talking about chucking the Northern Ireland Protocol and that they could just simply change it at a whim. No, this hasn't worked. And as I said, the only way to actually solve this, which you could literally do, and Johnson could indeed do this at the stroke of a pen, would be if Johnson basically decided to rejoin the European Economic Area by rejoining the single market and the customs union. And like I say, that was what the Brexiteers ran at. That was what the Leave campaign ran on. You know, that was meant to be a fantastic option. But no, instead what we got was essentially a hard right coup by the most hard right, free market fundamentalist Brexiteers in the Conservative Party. And that is who we are being run by. People who are driven not by practicalities, but by ideology. And at the end of the day, when their ideology doesn't work, they will not be blaming their ideology. They'll be blaming anything but that. So, as always, thank you for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe. The subscribe button down below. And also down below, there are links to my Patreon page and my One Off Donation link as well, Buy Me Coffee, and also the YouTube memberships as well. And as always, thank you for watching. Thank you to all the people who do support me. And of course, we'll see you all next time.